When plans for a Club World Cup were announced, the competition faced plenty of scrutiny before a ball was even kicked. Many fans, players and managers shared their concerns surrounding player welfare, whilst others felt as though this was just another money-making scheme for FIFA representatives. So now it's concluded. The ultimate question is, was the Club World Cup worth it? In this video, I'm going to delve into what we learned, areas in which the competition excelled, whilst placing a critical hat on to assess the format's weaknesses. Without question for me, the biggest highlight of the tournament came from the Brazilian representatives, as all of their teams showcased success in different ways. There was Fluminense, who made it into the semi-finals after knocking out last year's Champions League finalists Inter Milan. Flamengo came top of their group after beating Chelsea. Botafogo beat PSG in the group stages with a shock 1-0 victory, whilst Palmeiras came top of their group. These teams didn't just show flair, they defended with grit and counter-attacked with efficiency, and these traits certainly caught out a lot of the European giants. With the Brazilian national team going over 20 years since they last won a World Cup, it could be argued that there was a lack of respect and acknowledgement for the Brazilian teams going into this competition. The Club World Cup was certainly a reminder of the talent pool within Brazil, and no one should be surprised, as some of the greatest talents to have ever played football have of course come from that part of the world. Maybe this is a sign that the sleeping giant of Brazil's national team is about to wake up. With countries all having their own cultures and playing philosophies, it was intriguing to see teams from all around the world colliding in matches which we never thought would be possible. We had Juventus representing Italian football, a culture well known for their slick passing and tactical brilliance, going up against the flair and aggression of Fluminense from Brazil. Then we had Al Hilal representing Saudi Arabia, a country which has received significant funding and yet for me doesn't have a recognised philosophy. And they achieved impressive results against elite teams from global leagues, with Real Madrid and Manchester City being the victims. Personally, I was most fascinated to see how the MLS teams would cope against top European sides. The MLS is a league which I enjoy watching, but it tends to be overlooked by fans across Europe. And it seems as though top European clubs keep their deep pockets away from recruiting in this league. In fact, I don't believe an elite level signing has occurred since Alphonso Davies when he joined Bayern from Vancouver. So there's certainly room for improvement within their academy setups. And overall, I thought Inter Miami did quite well. They qualified through the group and got a great win over Porto. Of course, they struggled against PSG, but most have this season. On the other hand, Los Angeles and Seattle did limp out of their groups after finishing bottom, although neither side to my memory lost a match by more than 2 goals. They went up against the likes of PSG, Chelsea and Atletico Madrid, which shows that the MLS is a competitive league. Of course, there were nightmare clashes with Bayern Munich smashing Auckland 10-0, but these events tend to happen in the country World Cups too. The pre-tournament belief that top teams would easily make it through the group stages proved to be false, with Man City being the only team to win all of their group stage games. As someone who has been raised within a football-loving country, it's easy for me to say that the Club World Cup is a needless extra tournament, especially when considering the dominance shown in both wealth and fame across the English and European pyramids. But without question, this competition would have certainly brought life into the less familiar leagues, and I'm certain that there would have been teams participating of which many fans didn't even know existed before the tournament kicked off. Promoting football globally can be nothing short of a good thing. It's a sport I love, and I'm sure if you're watching this video you feel the same way. So why shouldn't this feeling be shared through allowing supporters worldwide to oversee their teams go up against the best in the world? Because ultimately, this will have a great impact on the younger generations in countries like New Zealand, South Africa, Tunisia, and FIFA representatives will argue that, well, this will improve their leagues through increased participation at grassroots level, and it's hard to dispute that. Another factor to consider is that when teams from overlooked countries show promise on the global stage, this could maybe increase the chances of top teams recruiting their star players, which will then provide a financial reward, which could uplift the standards of play across the league. In the past, we've often seen players shine in World Cups, country World Cups. The best one that stands out to me is James Rodriguez. I think he won the Golden Boot that year for Colombia as well, and then got a deal to Real Madrid. The Club World Cup is no different. It provides the same opportunity for unknown talents to shine on a global stage. And so let's say if a player from Auckland in New Zealand was bought for 15 million, they'd likely then look to sign players from their league rivals. and then the wealth would spread, which creates a more exciting league. So this is certainly an argument in favour of the Club World Cup, and I can again get behind it. Now we begin to look at the Club World Cup with a glass half empty rather than full approach. The first concern I have surrounding this competition is, will it have an impact on the upcoming season? Whilst teams competed in temperatures which required, how often, 2 water breaks a game, their title rivals were sat at home resting whilst rubbing their hands at the thought of their challengers facing potential burnout. This thought process is certainly not an irrational one, as Pep Guardiola was even quoted as saying that the Club World Cup could destroy Manchester City's Premier League challenge next season. So it makes you wonder, how many fellow managers feel the same way, but they haven't had the bravery to speak out against the FIFA money-making machine? For me, the league should be every team's main focus, domestic league. Being the champion of your country over a 30 to 38 fixture window highlights that there is no luck involved. With the possibility of teams being handicapped through injuries or burnout, we could see a lacklustre end to the season, with intensity of matches being reduced through clubs experiencing an overloaded calendar. The counter-argument, and you hear it often, is that you could argue that the teams involved in the Club World Cup are well financially backed, as well as having world-class squads. But the injury to Musiala is one which, although not muscular, supports the concerns that some make, which is that these extra competitions are purely for financial greed and there is a negligence towards player welfare. I personally don't support a big club. I don't support one that will be impacted in the Club World Cup. But if you are listening to this and you feel like your club could be impacted in a good or bad way, please let me know your thoughts. The next flaw which can be used against the Club World Cup is that, as expected, we've ended up with an all-European final. To go even further, 3 of the 4 semi-finalists were European, which further highlights the gap across the rest of the world. I do stand by my earlier statement that many teams successfully represented their countries, but are we just reaching a stage where this tournament provides more money for clubs who arguably don't need any more backing? When we look at the PSG v Chelsea final, this is something we could see in the Champions League next season. We also got PSG v Real Madrid, PSG v Bayern Munich. So does this take away some shine for when these games happen back in the Champions League? It's well known that the winner of the Club World Cup will earn £100 million. So clubs will naturally want to win it, and owners will not allow their managers to put out weaker sides. But could it be argued that this is just an opportunity to create bigger gaps at domestic levels? Let's look at PSG. They already won their league title by a country mile. They don't need any more backing. Now I'm moving into the minor cons of the Club World Cup, and these are purely based off personal preference. Firstly, I didn't really enjoy the players walking out one by one at the start of matches. I do believe that football should be showcased to the world through its traditional format. But again, I understand that the Club World Cup is for all cultures, and I acknowledge that different host nations will provide a build-up to games which, I guess, suit their own crowds. Additionally, I haven't appreciated the quality of pitches. At times it seemed like the ball didn't bounce or it travelled too slow across the pitch, which naturally impacted the players. They would also have weak shots when the ball moved along the floor, and so I hope this is something which is looked into for next summer's World Cup, when it returns to America again. Without question, the stadiums over there are incredible and will produce fantastic imagery, but all that matters to me is the standard of the pitches, because it's essential for ensuring that the quality of play is optimal. So, in summary, the Club World Cup has certainly had its bright moments. It allowed supporters to answer questions which involved whether certain nations' clubs could compete with the top dogs, and multiple upsets showed that it was worthwhile. Concerns surrounding injuries and burnouts will be answered in the upcoming season, and I anticipate that numerous managers will scapegoat their failures towards fixture congestion. The Club World Cup certainly has potential, and with it being every 4 years, it could grow in stature, which leads to managers and players developing a desire to win this trophy more so than maybe even domestic accolades. Time will tell. Please do let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching.